Hello, and welcome to Trauma Perceptive Practice, or TPP training as it's also known, which is the Essex approach to understanding behaviour and supporting emotional well-being. A significant component of the social emotional mental health strategy is trauma perceptive practice, and we're delighted to be able to share with you some of the key materials from our training. There are 9 elements to TPP to cover over this course. These sessions have been designed to provide anyone who wants to learn more about TPP with a flavour of learning that schools and settings receive. Please note the content is an abridged version of TPP and not the full course that schools and settings receive. Throughout the training, we would like you to consider how you will be able to use the training content to adopt and support the values of TPP in your work with schools and settings, children and young people, and families. Please be aware that the topic of trauma and emotional well-being can be emotive, and it's important to look after your own well-being. There are some useful links for accessing support, and we will highlight these at the end of the session. They will also be available in a handout that goes along with these webinars, which you can download and print off should this be helpful. Please also note there are videos throughout the training we ask you to watch. The links to these can be found in a handout that support these webinars. Please download to access the links. In this webinar, we will be providing an introduction to SEMH, which stands for Social, Emotional and Mental Health, defining trauma and explaining more about what TPP training is. The SEN Code of Practice sets out the expectations for schools and how they understand and respond to SEMH needs. SEMH was a new category introduced to the Code of Practice in 2015. Replacing categories previously related to behaviour. This marked the start of a shift away from behaviour management approaches towards a mindset which attempts to understand behaviour as a form of communication and to support emotional well-being. There is a vast amount of research that's improved our understanding of the impact of trauma on development and well-being, but evidence tells us that educators simply do not know enough about it. This is why we've developed TPP. We can no longer ignore the vast amount of emerging research and clinical evidence that has radically improved our understanding of the physiological, emotional and psychological development of children and the way that trauma and neglect impact on normal developmental processes. TES found in 2019 that 60% of teachers had no relevant training in this area and as such felt under-equipped to support children with SEMH needs. This applies to experienced teachers as well as newly qualified teachers. So we're hoping to change the statistics, at least in Essex. We are also told anecdotally that this is the same for other providers, hence why we are committing to share the learning beyond education settings. We just want you to think about what your experience is. This training is called Trauma Perceptive Practice, or TPP for short. So it's important that we define trauma and share an understanding of what we mean when we're talking about it. Trauma is a very personalised and individual experience. Firstly, because it requires an external threat or perceived threat, and people will differ in what they perceive as a threat. For example, I'm frightened of spiders and I perceive them as a threat. You may keep spiders and see them as an interesting pet. And secondly, because it requires an internal stress response from the individual, which again will differ based on how many risk and protective factors someone has. For example, a supportive family, levels of resilience, access to shared interests or faith groups, and so on. In Essex, we promote TPP as the universal training offer to schools and settings for seeking support with understanding social, emotional and mental health needs. It is £25 for Essex schools and settings and provides around 18 hours of CPD for all staff. The TPP introductory webinar package is much shorter, and the content you will access is an abridged version of the main package. However, we've chosen some of the main concepts from the training to share with you across these webinars. Being trauma perceptive is about who you are, how you apply your understanding, how you organise your environment, how you care for children and young people, and know why you work in this way. Language is a very important aspect of TPP. We will explore these terms throughout the content of these sessions, so any that are currently unfamiliar to you should be addressed in these sessions. The purpose of making a shift towards the language displayed here is to create a culture where we aim to understand behaviour and support emotional well-being, rather than labelling it and punishing it. To give you an example, historically, you may have heard a child being described as having a meltdown or kicking off, prompting us to respond with blame for what the child has done wrong and then punishing them for it. But if we describe the same child as being dysregulated or stressed, we are more inclined to feel empathy towards them and support them through co-regulation. So you can see how the language we use has a huge impact on the actions we take. This type of change in language is a culture and mindset shift, which we expect to take time to embed. But we must understand that it is not a revolution, it's an evolution, and change will take time. What TPP won't do. TPP isn't a quick fix or magic wand for sorting out difficult children or children who may cause harm. Language displayed in inverted commas are examples of how language may have been used historically. By applying TPP, we will begin to reframe the language we use and understand that children and young people are instead experiencing stress and distress, which may lead them to situations where they compromise the safety of themselves and others. TPP isn't a specialist support fix for mental health issues. It isn't a checklist or tick list, and it will not label children. TPP is different from other programs in which some of these approaches may be used. There are strategies and tools woven throughout the training, but TPP prioritises the relationship between children and young people and key adults. Effective strategies will develop from knowing and understanding the children and young people. This visual captures the whole TPP package and the 9 elements that are explored. To make the training sustainable in schools and settings, you'll notice TPP is a train-the-trainer model. The head teacher and another member of the senior leadership team attend elements 1 and 2, and then go back and deliver these elements to their staff. A TPP trainer is then put forward for a 2-day train-the-trainer session. Once completed, they then go back to their school or setting and deliver elements 3 to 9 to all staff. Schools and settings that have completed the advanced level of TPP can also become trained in the TPP for families. This is a psychoeducation course for parents and carers to help them understand their child and young person better. The training uses TPP concepts and adapts them to the family setting. We have now come to the end of the introduction. Here are some useful links to support should you or someone you know need it. There is also a downloadable copy that sits alongside these webinars should this be helpful.